In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to ignore evil is to become an accomplice to it. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. Welcome to my channel. Please enjoy the video. What is going on, my tea sippers? As we know, guys, Mr. RKelly has been behind bars for more than 2.5 years as he awaits that federal and state trial in Illinois and in Minnesota on those charges, including having sex with underage girls, obstruction of justice, and engaging in prostitution with a minor. The trials will follow on the heels of a New York jury finding the disgraceful singer, born Robert Sylvester Kelly, guilty of those 9 charges on September 27, including the racketeering and sex trafficking. As we all know, Mr. Kelly is 54 now, and he faces 10 years to life in prison following his conviction in New York, with the sentencing scheduled once again for May 4th of 2022. In addition to 3 to 7 years in prison for each of the 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse in separate cases in Cook County, Illinois, the disgraced singer, who once referred to himself as the Pied Piper of R&B, is also looking at more potential prison time pending the outcome of that upcoming federal trial in Chicago, guys, as well as even more potential years in prison from the state case in Minnesota. The Chicago and New York federal cases do not share any victims, but are likely to feature several overlapping elements from potential witnesses to the alleged criminal behavior, and this is according to WBEZ Chicago. The singer pleaded guilty to not guilty on all of those charges in the cases and has steadfastly maintained his innocence. He's been behind bars since July of 2019. One of his attorneys in the Chicago case, Steve Greenberg, who was also on Kelly's defense team in New York, in that case, he was asked before asking to be removed off of Kelly's case. Well, Mr. Greenberg told the Billboard, "It's likely the I Believe I Can Fly star may never, ever walk free again." Hallelujah. So Michael Leonard is another Chicago-based lawyer, and he was asked to be excused from the New York case as well. But he's still going to be representing Mr. Kelly in that federal case in Illinois, and he also told Billboard that he also expects his client will face a possible lengthy sentence from Judge Ann Donnelly at the May court appearance. If it's a substantial sentencing, that could very mean well that the other jurisdictions will not want to expand their resources on the long trials for Mr. Kelly, Leonard says, or they may be much more interested in a plea bargain with Mr. Kelly. Now, how could they possibly come to a plea bargain with Mr. Kelly when he maintains his innocence? But guys, he hasn't even spoken how innocent he was. We're still waiting, Mr. Kelly. So, however, guys, if the latter is the case, Leonard says that the most logical outcome would be that nothing goes forward in the other cases, especially the trials, until the landscape is clarified by Judge Donnelly's sentence. So by the time of the sentencing in New York case, Kelly may have been locked up for nearly 3 years. Even as Kelly faces those potential of dozens of additional years behind bars in those other cases, or even the rest of his natural life, one of the most dogged reporters on the case for the past 2 decades is a Chicago journalist, and I disagree. However, they're saying he's dogged. He's a dogged reporter. However, I think Jim DeGarotis did a very excellent job on this report on Mr. Kelly. He needs to go after certain other celebrities in Hollywood, if you catch my drift. Jay-Z. Okay, Puffy. Recently, Jim DeGarotis told the New York Times that the music podcast that special speculation about the amount of time R. Kelly could serve after the additional trials could actually be a moot point. All right. Okay, so asked if he was afraid Kelly could be freed on appeal following the New York verdict, DeGarotis pointed to those other cases on the once high-flying R&B star's faces, as well as one very simple reason: he'll likely spend the rest of his life in lockup. Money, money. So they're saying that the other reason that Mr. Bigger Than Broke and Me Too was R. Kelly is broken. DeGarota said that the once arena-packed star who had effectively been grounded since 2018 and prevented from earning a lucrative touring revenue as well as having his 2 official YouTube channels permanently disabled following the New York verdict and getting dropped by his longtime label RCA Records. So like I said, guys, they have not came up with a court appearance for him for the Chicago case nor the Minnesota. However, it's coming. Hang on to your seats, guys. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with this May sentencing, and I just hope that they don't wait until May. But hey, if that's the way they got to do it, they have to do it. Kelly has nothing but time on his hands now. One interesting fact that DeGarota pointed out is that he deemed that the bungled defense team that represented the singer in New York is an absolutely bargain basement. A sure sign that the singer won't be able to pay for that kind of top-tier defense team stars typically hire in serious cases as this one. So, the prosecutors for Kelly being released anytime soon seems really dim. Chicago-based former federal prosecutor Renato Marilani told Billboard the handful of cases in different courtrooms could work in his favor. While I think it's possible that R. Kelly will be in prison for the rest of his life, I don't think it's certain to happen, says Maserati. He's a liar. He spoke to Billboard about typical sentencing in such cases, but had no firsthand knowledge of the specifics in the Kelly case. Sit down. Because I'm trying to tell y'all, like I told y'all in the beginning, Robert Sylvester Kelly has no defense. He didn't get up on the stand and speak, and R. Kelly's sales have soared during this trial, guys. And however, we'll get into that in a minute. So like I stated, it seems if Robert got up on the stand and said a poem on his innocence, maybe the jurors would have took a little effect to him and felt sorry for him or something. If he could get his sales records up, people still love him. And I'm not saying that the juries are sequestered or not, whether they're sequestered or not. They probably would have took some kind of initiative in listening to Mr. Kelly on the stand if he just got up there and spoke of how innocent he is. Don't you guys think that? Now, this is what the man is saying, and he don't know nothing about this case, Mr. Maserati. He's facing criminal charges in multiple jurisdictions as well as a serious conviction in this federal case in Brooklyn. Maserati added, but the judge in the Brooklyn case has a wide discretion on regarding his potential sentencing, and there are issues that could be raised on appeal to challenge his conviction or sentence. I disagree because Mr. Kelly declined to testify. So in my opinion, his rights were not violated because he had every right, like he told Gayle King. He's fighting for his life. So, however, agreeing with Leonard, Maserati speculated that a negotiation resolution between Kelly's team and the prosecutors, in which he admits to all of the conduct in the other jurisdictions, and a single judge in one of those jurisdictions could consider that conduct and sentence him then. So guys, he may not be going to Chicago and then Minnesota. However, I really think that they're going to make him go to the Chicago trial, okay? Because the Minnesota trial seems a lot quicker and shorter, okay? I could be wrong. So they're saying that they can consider that conduct and they will sentence him, and that could save the singer from a lifetime behind bars. I doubt it. Judge Donnelly is going to make that ruling. And like we know, guys, it's the Mann Act. It's sex trafficking. He was found guilty on all 9 charges. That is going to be the bigger piece of the pie. However, the Chicago trial, if it goes that way, it can go 50-50. He is going to get more time for that Chicago trial than he will this Mann Act and sex trafficking trial, because he paid off the land fares. He paid them off, guys. They knew it was Prashonda on the tape all along. However, Mr. Kelly blocked him being convicted then. He was supposed to have been sentenced in 2008. But he paid the family off, sent the girl off. Baby, they was over there sipping margaritas, okay, as he walked free. So that's what the obstruction case is about. It's not double jeopardy. It's the fact that he paid the family off, guys. Pay attention. Now, Marilotti is what he's trying to say, guys, is this would give some measure to the certainty to both sides, but will likely only be possible if the agreement R. Kelly gives at the least possibility that he will not spend the rest of his life in prison. However, you have these attorneys representing R. Kelly, and Marilotti does not know anything because he was not in the courtroom. He never heard any testimony. Go and read the transcripts, okay? There is no way R. Kelly's ever going to get out of prison. And this is just my opinion. Sorry to hurt you R. Kelly supporters' feelings. But it's not about feelings, guys. It's about facts. Now, guys, I was watching a YouTuber named Yaz Nation. And the tea that he spilled, I agree. And then I don't agree. It could have been. Because it seems that Dream Hampton and Jay-Z and Beyonce, they wired her tens of thousands of dollars to bail out protesters. Now, as we all know, Dream Hampton was the one who produced the surviving R. Kelly. Could this have been possible revenge from Jay-Z and Dream Hampton creating this documentary? Even though these things, in my opinion, did happen, but could this have been a get back? Because, guys, R. Kelly sued Jay-Z for $75 million, and Jay-Z countersued. However, R. Kelly won, and Jay-Z's case was dismissed and thrown out. But in my opinion, guys, Barry Hankerson turned that tape into the Chicago Sun-Times. A lot of people came after Kelly. A lot of people turned on R. Kelly, but once and for all, R. Kelly turned it on and exposed himself for doing the things he were doing. But people pushed this with that R. Kelly documentary. I believe that. But Barry Hankerson was behind, allegedly, the one submitting the tape to the Chicago Sun-Times. See, guys, there were a lot of hands in the cookie jar at one time. Barry Hankerson, Diane Houghton. But this does not excuse Robert Sylvester Kelly's actions. I don't care about them pushing Jay-Z behind Dream Hampton, pushing the surviving R. Kelly docuseries. R. Kelly really did these things, guys. So whether or not it was a get back on revenge or revenge on Jay-Z's behalf, and him and Dream Hampton came up with this conspiracy to make surviving R. Kelly, these things were actually happening. He had these young girls in his home. He did the take of Rashonda Landfair. And I believe, just like Sparkle said, Barry Hankerson knew everything that was going on. He witnessed what R. Kelly said to Sparkle in front of her parents. So we have to stop blaming other celebrities for R. Kelly's mischiefs, okay? These were his action and his actions alone. Now, another thing I wanted to squeeze into this commentary, guys, I just discovered some shocking information about Chuck Berry. Now, that video that I made on last night didn't get many views. However, it was an educational video, and I was trying to tell you guys how Mr. Chuck Berry got convicted on the Mann Act. However, there was information that was sent to me and gathered, and it proves more evidence about Chuck Berry. Was R. Kelly influenced by Chuck Berry? Because a lot of things Chuck Berry did, it's kind of common what R. Kelly was doing, especially with this video recording his victims. But it seems Mr. Chuck Berry was also recording his victims, but they had no knowledge of him recording them, and this makes this even more wrong. Because allegedly, he was a peeping Tom. Now imagine him saying that this 14-year-old girl was coming to work at his nightclub and doing legitimate work versus what I uncovered? I highly doubt that. See, guys, despite the most recent media scrutiny to sexual predators of Hollywood in the past, many men would take advantage of their position of power and get away with their vile behavior in the eyes of the public, even if it resulted in suffering from legal consequences that may have hindered their career. Well, Berry was one of these men. He was only a teenager when he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for armed robbery, but see, it didn't stop him from achieving stardom, and nor did it deter him from having another brush with the law. In 1959, Berry was at the height of his career. However, that didn't stop authorities from arresting the musician in St. Louis for taking that 14-year-old girl named Janice across state lines for immoral purposes. He served 20 months once again in prison for his crime. Okay, so fast forwarding 2 decades later, Barry would be behind bars again for pleading to tax evasion, and this was in July of 1979. He was sentenced to 4 months in jail, and he had to do 1,000 hours of community service. Luckily, performing benefits concerts could be counted towards that. Now, you guys know when R. Kelly got out in 2008, he was acquitted of that trial. He went and did more music, did The Chocolate Factory, did all of these other awesome albums. At the time, I thought they were. Okay, and went right back to his criminal ways, okay, to his perverted ways. And as you can see, Chuck Berry did all of that too. So after those 3 convictions, you would think that Berry will become a law-abiding citizen like R. Kelly, but sadly, that wasn't the case. The man with the seemingly everything he wanted, seemingly more, he wanted everything illegally. In December of 1989, Berry was accused of recording women in the bathroom of his restaurant, the Southern Air in Westfield, Missouri. That was his restaurant. Former waitresses sued Berry and said he had been making those videotapes of them for the improper purposes of entertainment and gratification. Sound familiar, guys? So it seems that Chuck Berry liked to record his victims too, but without their knowledge. Baby, so after they sued Chuck Berry, they said he installed the videotaping equipment in the restroom's bathroom and had intentionally and without just cause or excuse intruded upon her seclusion and privately without her permission in making manufacturing tapes, depicting Huck undressing and dressing and using the toilet at the restaurant. Oh my God. Okay, so they call those recordings outrageous and be all possible bounds of decency. Okay, he was recording these women in the bathroom. They could have been in there doing number 2. I guess that turned him on. So Berry claimed that those cameras were not to spy on his employees or customers, but it was rather to catch a staff member stealing from his business in the bathroom. Really, Berry? Okay. So this man put this camera behind the toilet seat, guys, and those tirade of women came together and filed that class action lawsuit against Berry for filming them in that bathroom without their consent, okay? And he put other recording devices in other areas of the toilet's contents during the seconds after the women stood up before they even flushed so he could see them. Nasty. And guys, it's not funny. They dubbed those videotapes as the toilet tapes by the media, as they showed hundreds of females caught relieving themselves. This turned Chuck Berry on. Okay, just like Dave Chappelle made that "I Want to Pee on You" video, okay? And not only that, guys, we know what was stated in those transcripts, what Mrs. Asriel said, how Mr. R. Kelly made her put those things in her mouth, honey, and waddle around on the floor in her own urine. What is going on with these people? So after that lawsuit was settled, he paid $1.2 million to the group of 59 ladies in Huck. Sad, sad, sad. And then after that, he went on to transport that 14-year-old girl across state lines for inappropriate sex. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Dreamhampton actually used, or Jay-Z used Dreamhampton to exploit R. Kelly and expose him? And then she came up with the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries? Because it seems like she was able to get on the phone and contact Jay-Z and ask him to send money for protesters. It's kind of like, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. That is something to really think about. However, I'm going to say that Barry Hankerson was behind this more than anybody else. And guys, let's not forget that extremely poorly written book by R. Kelly's former assistants. He stated that Barry and the recording company were getting reports about Kelly's proclivities as early as 91, 92. So this was way before, like I told y'all, before R. Kelly even met Aaliyah. Barry Hankerson knew R. Kelly. He knew. He heard things, he seen things. I think Barry knew, but in the end, he didn't care because he wanted a successful album out of Aaliyah. He always was shortchanging her as the head of a recording company. So why didn't he spend a private plane to get her once she expressed that she wanted to leave early? Barry has a lot to answer to for me, guys. Maybe the guilt he felt is the reason why he secretly released that tape once Aaliyah passed away, and nobody can tell me Barry didn't have something to do with that tape coming out, allegedly. Barry turned that tape in. He knew about Sparkle's niece. He knew about Aaliyah. And so did Diane Houghton. See, guys, it was rumored that Barry is the one who passed that tape to Jim Gigarodis of the Chicago Sun-Times when he was the reporter. And due to my research, that's part of why Jim pled the fifth at the 2008 trial. I didn't know that Jim Gigarodis testified in that trial, but he pled the fifth. As for Barry, who knows how long he sat on that tape, the events on that tape happened 3 to 4 years before it surfaced. The tape only emerged just several months after Aaliyah's death. Think about it, guys. And I still can't get over Barry Hankerson saying that he went to Louis Farrakhan. The man that Louis Farrakhan vowed his loyalty to is an alleged pedophile. A pedophile that Louis himself allegedly covered for. Rest in peace, Malcolm X. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell.